Welcome to the 700 Club. Thanks so much for joining with us. Well, much of the world is turning up the pressure on Israel to declare a ceasefire in Gaza. Still, in the United Nations Security Council yesterday, America stood up for the Jewish state.
The U.S. vetoed a resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire on the grounds that it actually puts Israeli hostages at even greater risk. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl reports.
Netanyahu says Israel is under pressure from inside the country and abroad to stop the war before achieving its goals, including the release of the hostages.
We really want to achieve another release, and we're also willing to go a long way. But we're not ready to pay any price, certainly not to pay the illusory prices that Hamas demands from us, which would mean defeat for the state of Israel. There is no pressure that can change that.
At the UN, the U.S. defended its veto of a Security Council resolution Tuesday because it demanded an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, putting talks for a hostage release in jeopardy. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said an American emissary is in the region working to reach an agreement.
And a vote for this resolution today could very well put those negotiations at risk.
Meanwhile, a relative of the youngest hostage and his family reacted to security cam footage released by the IDF showing her sister-in-law and two little boys taken through the streets of Khan Yunis on October 7th.
When we saw these videos, it really tore our hearts out. It was really difficult to witness Shiri, Ariel and Kfir in the situation again after being ripped away from their home in New Oz into this hell. Everything still feels unbearable. You can see the inhumanity, those actions.
Meanwhile, Israel is considering putting age restrictions on Israeli Muslims visiting the Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem during the Islamic holy month of Ramadan.
We know that there are rogue elements, that there are extreme Islamic fundamentalist groups who always seek to flare up the surroundings in the holidays, in the celebrations, and in the prayers, and that we will not permit.
President Isaac Herzog says Israel seeks to balance security with its commitment to freedom of religion.
Israel has always and will always maintain freedom of practice and religion in Jerusalem, of course, in all religious sites around the country, definitely in Temple Mount, in the mosques, of course, pending security considerations, challenges.
It's rare that Israeli Muslims would be subject to such restrictions. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, congratulations to the Biden administration for standing strong with Israel. And please encourage your congressmen, your senators, to stand strong. The aid package needs to be passed. We need to let the entire world know that we're standing with Israel during her difficult hours. This is the most difficult hours since the Yom Kippur War. Please keep in mind the end of that package, their pledge for freedom of religion in Israel. They have guarded all of the holy sites, whether they're Christian or Muslim or Jewish, and they've allowed free access to them. What a wonderful contrast to what happened when Jordan had control of the West Bank and Jerusalem. Under Jordanian rule, and it was called Transjordan, from 1948 to 1967, if you were Jewish, it was illegal for you to be on the Jordanian side. The Jewish quarter, the Muslims said they cleansed it of all Jews. You couldn't go to the Western Wall. You couldn't pray at the Temple Mount. All of that was illegal. They destroyed all the synagogues. Some of them they turned into latrines. They desecrated the Jewish cemeteries. They did all of these things, and we can expect that to happen again if these terrorists get control of that land again. So please, let us stand with Israel. Let us stand strong, because now is their hour of need. In other news, the Biden administration is pledging to hold Russia accountable for the death of Vladimir Putin's chief political rival. Ephraim Graham has that story and more from the CBN newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon, the administration announced it will unveil major sanctions against Russia Friday. It comes as Alexei Navalny's wife and mother are calling on Putin to release his body. Morgue officials say they won't turn over his remains for at least 2 weeks pending an examination. Navalny's wife believes he was poisoned and Putin is responsible. Meanwhile, his supporters are remembering his courage and his faith. During his trial in 2021, Navalny said, "The fact is that I am a Christian. I was once quite a militant atheist myself, but now I am a believer." He also quoted Jesus' words from the Sermon on the Mount. "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied." Turning now to politics here at home. With the South Carolina primary just days away, former President Donald Trump holds a commanding lead. In a speech Tuesday, his rival Nikki Haley said even if she loses her home state, she's not dropping out.
"I've always been David, taking on Goliath. And like David, I'm not just fighting someone bigger than me. I'm fighting for something bigger than myself. I'll keep fighting until the American people close the door. That day is not today, and it won't be on Saturday, not by a long shot. The presidential primaries have barely begun. Just 3 states have voted."
Haley says she'll keep fighting at least until Super Tuesday's primary on March 5th. That is when voters in 15 states and 1 territory head to the polls. As Donald Trump moves closer to the GOP nomination, the talk of his potential choice for a running mate is growing louder. CBN's chief political analyst David Brody takes a look at possible options to fill that slot.
As Donald Trump cruises towards the Republican National Convention, the talk is drifting quickly to who he may choose to stand beside him as the vice presidential candidate. Hogan Gidley is a former Trump White House official.
In this cycle, I do think the VP pick is going to matter more than it has in the past.
That's because it could determine the future for the party. If Donald Trump wins, he can only serve 1 term. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's advanced age could lead to a President Kamala Harris if he has to step down in a 2nd term. That means an upcoming VP debate signifies a real glimpse into the future.
So what you're going to see is not just necessarily a vice presidential debate, but kind of a presidential 2.0 debate, if you will. Where is the party going to go from our side and from their side? And the differences could not be more stark.
There are 6 people considered to be on Trump's shortlist for VP. Representative Elise Stefanik, Governors Kristi Noem and Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Senators Tim Scott and J.D. Vance, and Dr. Ben Carson. We talked to Republican strategist Dave Carney about the process. What's your kind of feeling from a political operative standpoint here?
I think what President Trump wants is a no-drama candidate who's articulate, go out and advocate for his points of view, not try to one-up him or be a show-off, if you know what I mean, but just someone who can do the grinding that the vice president needs to do.
The candidate will also have to be one who Trump's MAGA faithful will see as loyal. They vilified former Vice President Mike Pence when he certified the disputed 2020 election. This week, VP hopeful Senator Tim Scott wouldn't say what he would have done in that situation.
You're asking a hypothetical question that you know can never happen again.
Meanwhile, VP hopeful Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio struck a completely different tune.
Would you have certified the election results had you been vice president?
If I had been vice president, I would have told the states like Pennsylvania, Georgia, and so many others that we needed to have multiple slates of electors, and I think the U.S. Congress should have fought over it from there.
Another big factor would entail finding a candidate able to reach female voters in the suburbs. That's where Democrats are hoping to have a big advantage, especially on the issue of abortion. GOP officials acknowledge they haven't done an effective job of getting their pro-life message across. A Trump VP pick will likely get that job.
You've got to be comfortable talking about that issue. You don't want to be skittish of it, because being on the offense on this issue, we win.
While a strong voice on that crucial issue would seem to be important with Trump, it's hard to predict which direction he'll go. However, one overarching point is crucial.
It does matter if you make the wrong choice. You really want to make a good choice. There's not a perfect choice, You don't want to make a bad choice.
And in a GOP election season that seems like a runaway at this point, we could get that VP choice sooner rather than later. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
As election season heats up, Congress and some states are taking on artificial intelligence. House leaders are launching a bipartisan task force to study how America can lead in AI development and safeguards. The 24-member group will develop policy proposals and study how to protect against potential threats from technology, including deep fakes, misinformation, and job loss. This week, Wisconsin joined 20 states with an election law requiring campaigns to disclose when advertisements are AI generated. As artificial intelligence shapes more aspects of life, its integration into systems of faith raises new theological questions, and experts say churches need to prepare. CBN's Brody Carter investigates how AI is transforming faith-based interactions.
One of the questions we actually asked was, do you think that God can work through AI? And we found that a really large number of pastors say that God can work through AI.
The overall embrace of AI in the digital world means it exists where you might least expect.
It's everywhere. It's in social media. It's, when you get on Netflix.
And quietly integrating into nearly every aspect of our lives. Researcher Ashley Ekme of the Barna Group is exploring how U.S. Christians feel about AI and its use in the church.
A lot of congregants aren't particularly trusting of AI in the church at this moment. But pastors in particular are the ones who exhibit the most concern.
Results from the study found 1 in 10 U.S. adults frequently use AI. In the church, more than half of attendees believe AI isn't good for church use, suggesting significant hesitation or skepticism about its role in religious contexts.
There is nothing new under the sun, as Ecclesiastes would say, and God is not surprised by AI.
Brad Hill with Glue, a partner in Barna's study, helps connect people to local churches and sees AI as key to transforming the company's workflow.
We used to have to employ much more manual process to look at an inbound connection request and match it to the right church. So we've taken that now from about 3 hours down to milliseconds.
Glue is investing about $25 million towards implementing AI in the church, including research and development. And Hill says it's time for pastors to also put together a game plan.
It's not just churches and businesses that risk falling behind. Our government is also having trouble keeping pace with this fast-moving technology. Both the House and Senate are pushing bills that would study AI accountability and risk. For now, they've only collected pledges from AI companies to ethically self-regulate.
Meanwhile, the Biden administration wants $2.6 billion from Congress to pay for a program that would make the government's AI resources more broadly available to researchers.
Both policymakers and these organizations are equally responsible for them. They both have to hold themselves to the highest standards.
Dr. Subodh Kumar, a Temple University data scientist, sees the lack of regulation as a combination of Congress needing a better understanding of AI, while also allowing freedom for it to thrive in areas of national security and economic development. In the meantime, it's up to users to regulate and protect themselves, and most importantly, their children.
The parents are oversharing kids' information, and as a user, the best way to protect us right now is that put a control on.
Brody Carter, CBN News.
My favorite line in the whole report, God is not surprised by AI. Gordon?
No, he's not surprised by AI, but here's the fundamental problem with AI, and it is a fundamental problem. It's made in our image. It's not made in God's image. And because it's made in our image, it has a lot of flaws. And when you look at large language models that have access to everything on the internet, well, then everything on the internet is going to color what it puts out. The old adage in computers, garbage in, garbage out. And so that's why we're seeing so many errors in AI, is because it's reflecting our own. Now, if you take an AI and train it up in the way to go, it won't depart from it. So if you limit that to just the Bible, you can have a very functional, very effective trainer in Scripture, and you can start asking that language model, because it's limited to just what's in the Bible. You can ask that, give me all the verses on love, give me all these things. I think most Christians are already doing that with Google searches. So having that as your own sort of personal Bible assistant, I think, is a wonderful thing. So let's do that, but we need to have regulation, and I applaud Congress for putting this together. I hope they work very quickly, because the pace of AI is increasing, and everything is turning to it in our culture, in businesses. Everywhere you look, you're seeing new AI programs come up. At the very least, they need to pass what's called a Blade Runner law, where the AI has to disclose that it's AI. And that makes you, as a consumer, knowledgeable as to what you're actually dealing with. You're not dealing with a person, you're dealing with an artificial construct. That needs to happen, and needs to happen very quickly. The other thing, which may take more time, is data protection for every American, and especially protection for people under the age of 18. That needs to be comprehensive. There's plenty of current law out there from the European Union and from China. It's amazing to me that China has better data protection for its citizens than we do here in the United States. So let's do this. Let's do it quickly, because AI is getting ready to invade everything we're doing.